I know this is different than the usual video, but I just got home after my shift and the gym. And so now I'm laying down on my couch. I was gonna do this video on the whiteboard upstairs, but I'm honestly just too exhausted, but I wanted to make the video for you guys anyways. Ironically, the video is how I do not burn out despite working just shy of 90 hours a week and also going to the gym. So point number one is I actually don't fundamentally believe in the concept of burnout in the typical way that people do. I don't think that you get to a point where you can no longer work at a high output because of stress, sleep deprivation, or whatever it is, lack of mental cognition, whatever it is, the thing that you're referring to when you talk about being burnt out. And I'm making this video because a guy commented asking, how do I avoid burnout? I just don't believe that for me. I don't believe that for me. I'm not putting that belief on other people. I'm not saying, like, if I was a business owner with employees, I'm not saying I would force them to work the hours I'm working and assume that they don't get burnt out. I'm just saying it's a mental belief that I have for me because I don't think that believing in burnout will serve me. So that's number one. Number two is I know what I want, and I know there's a price to pay to get what I want. And I know that I can either pay that price to get what I want, which is short-term pain for long-term pleasure, or I can succumb to my tiredness and stress and responsibility and use it as a reason to not succeed. And I would rather just work as much as I can than be tired and not show up as a consequence of it. The third part of it is I think that people think when someone works 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, and goes to the gym and it just has a really high output, that they don't have the same thoughts as everybody else. You know, I think that we think it's like an Instagram edit where somebody asks, you know, did you ever think you would make it? Did you ever think you would fail? Did you ever doubt yourself? And there's two different answers a lot of these guys have. But for me, I think about quitting all the time. There's just probably like for sometimes you'll hit little dips in your mentality where like for a week or two straight you'll just be like, why am I doing this, man? I'm 22 years old. I could be, enjoying my life right now. I could be hanging out with friends. I could go out. I could bowl. I could have fun. Whatever it is that people do, party, have some drinks. I could do all of that. But here I am on a Saturday morning, on a Sunday morning, on a Thursday morning, working 16 hours a day. You think I don't ever think about that? Or when I wake up off 4 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and I'm like just dead tired. My body doesn't want to. I feel lethargic. And then after I have to go to the gym, of course I think about quitting. Of course I think about it. I think about it all the time. Not on a daily basis, right? Because that's a bit much. But there are times when I'm like, man, I really just don't feel like it anyways. Today, I just don't feel like it. And I do it anyways. Because you can just snap yourself out of it. And you just think about, okay, I can take a day off. If I ask my boss for a day off, I know he'd give it to me. I know he would, right? But that means I'm temporarily giving up on myself. That's my mindset of it. Because I set a goal and I've committed to working these amount of hours until I reach that goal. So if I haven't reached that goal, then what's the reason I've deserved a day off? And I think that was 4 things or 3 things. I don't remember. But another aspect of it is I'm young, right? Like I'm 22. I don't have any kids. I don't have a girlfriend or a wife. I'm single. I don't have anyone to take care of. I have very little responsibilities outside of work. I don't have any friends or social obligations. That's out of choice, just to be clear there. And I think that removes a lot off my plate that a lot of other people have to deal with. So for me, it's just work and it's just the gym. Those are my 2 focuses. And I'm willing to sacrifice for those things, And I think an important part of this is really just defining what you mean by burnout. When you say, like, how do you not get burnt out? Because I think for me, I've defined it. I've defined being stressed, being tired, not feeling like showing up to work, right? I think people feel that way all the time. Even people who don't work is high of an output as I do. But I think that's because people do just enough to fail. You know, like 40 hours a week, in my opinion, working a job is never enough to get to where you're trying to go. Uh, I mean, unless you have small goals, right? Because even if you have a really good job, white collar job, and they pay you really well, you know, it's gonna take you 2, 3, 4 decades to get to that spot where they're paying you the top dollar in that position, and there's just no way you're gonna get there by working 40 hours a week. There's just no way. You're gonna have to do more. You're gonna have to take more responsibility, lead more than other people, put in more effort, show up on time, show up early, leave later. That's just how people run things. That's the way it's always been. The people who put in more hours and more effort will make more money and outperform the people who don't. And that's why a lot of companies and a lot of businesses are run by very young people, people in their early 20s, because they're willing to sacrifice. They're willing to sacrifice their time more than other people. You know? I think another part of it too is I have a lot of energy because I take care of my fitness and I track everything I eat on a daily basis. Like I think my FitnessPal streak right now is like 131. So for 131 consecutive days, I've tracked the food that I put into my mouth. And the only reason that ended is because I fasted for a day and I didn't eat anything. And before that, it was like another 100-something days because I always track my food. I always track my food, right? So I'm very conscious of what I'm putting into my body and what I drink, how much water I drink. I drink a gallon of water a day. That helps with energy levels. I also do caffeinate when I need to. It's like little things like that, right? Like my whole life is optimized for performance. I schedule every hour of my day in my calendar. I have a bedtime routine. I try to stick to. I pack my clothes the night before for work in the gym so that when I wake up, I don't have to make decisions. I have very little decision fatigue because I wear the same thing most days. I don't have a bunch of laundry to do because I don't wear a lot of clothes. I clean my car once a week on the same day. Like just little things. I take so much off of my plate so I can just stack the living hell out of this one area of my life because that's the priority for me right now. And I also sacrifice going to the gym to work more because before I was working like 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and now I'm working. Sorry guys, I'm so busted right now. I need to shower. But before I was working like 60 hours a week and I was going to the gym like 5, 6 times a week. And I loved that, right? It's more balanced. I love going to the gym that much. I love training. I love having free time outside of work, but it's just like I can either train and make way less money and enjoy my life more, or I can be temporarily dissatisfied and miserable and make more money. And for me, I'm willing to do that. Like, if any of you ever seen the Mike Tyson edit, he says it's almost like you have to give up your happiness to achieve your goals. And I think it's kind of dark in a way that a lot of people aren't willing to admit. But I think that people who succeed, winners, champions, whatever you want to call it, I think they're fundamentally broken in that way. They're willing to sacrifice everything for one thing, for one outcome. And that's just the way it is. And for me, happiness isn't even high on my like hierarchy of importance. Like, for me, it's not a big deal, you know. My states are pretty much always neutral, and they don't go up or down very often. And I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm okay with that. I don't mean that to sound depressing. I just think that high output people operate most of the time from logic, and that's a fundamental strength. But there is a derivative emotional core to it, if that makes sense. Like, my drive is probably emotional. Like, I want to be a significant person. I want to matter. I want to be important. Those are all emotional drives. But I'm saying I'm willing to temporarily sacrifice my current emotional state in order to achieve that longer purpose. And I think that if you genuinely want an outcome, you won't even think about burnout because it'll be so far way off in your mind that you're not even thinking about the price that you have to pay today in order to get to what you want, because it's just a small stepping stone to get you where you're going. And I think a lot of people have a hard time working their job because they work their job just enough to pay their bills, not any more, And that way they never have a surplus to save and do something on the side. And they never put in enough effort in their job to get the raise that they're looking for and to climb the hierarchy so that they can make more money for the time they're there. Where if people actually applied full effort to their job and showed up early and stayed later and took initiative and led and did what their boss asked them to and did above and beyond and also worked more hours and did a side thing, they would get to where they're going way faster. People have such a negative mindset around having a job that they never apply that kind of effort. And I think it's a positive reinforcement loop where it's like you show up to work, you work harder, you make more money, you get inspired to work harder, and then you start taking lead, and then you get bumped to a leadership position, and then you make more money for your time, and then you have more responsibility, so you show up with more seriousness, and you take your job more like you see it as more important, and that starts to give you a sense of purpose, and it's a repeating cycle. So I did want to make this video for you guys. I'm gonna fall asleep right after I take this video, but if you guys would like for me to speak on more of like my output and how I manage my energy levels and my time without quitting, without giving up, I would love to talk about that. I really do appreciate it when you guys comment and stuff. So shout out to the guy who commented on that video. Until the next one, peace out.